Thanks everyone for joining this webinar. Really appreciate it. Very warm welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us for this webinar. And the topic that we have for this webinar is aptly called SAP Modernization on Azure for the times that we're living in and the value that we can deliver for SAP customers. My name is Raghavendra Prabhu, and I head the Global Sales Solutions and Alliances for MSRcosmos. And we have a panel of speakers for today's session. Let me quickly introduce our speakers, starting with our guest speaker, Damien Rodriguez. I hope, Damien, I spelled your name properly. Damien is a director specialist in the SAP and Azure team at Microsoft. Damien helps customers evaluate Azure for SAP solutions and will be walking us through the SAP value proposition on Azure. Our next speaker is Balaji, who's a director in our Data and AI Solutions organization. Balaji will be talking about the Azure Data and AI capabilities that SAP customers can take benefit of. We have few demos lined up to walk you through the possibilities. Last but not the least, we have Ashwin Rahul Madhu, consultant in our Data and AI team. We'll talk about Microsoft automation capabilities that enhances the power of SAP and has few demos for us today. With that, I would like to request Damien to take over and talk us through the SAP value proposition on Azure. Over to you, Damien.
All right. Thank you, Prabhu. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining. As you all know, Microsoft Azure, our cloud, we have the most customers deployed in Azure. And I usually like to start this slide to kind of walk you through and give you an understanding of the value proposition that we bring, right? So I think the perception from the cloud-centric approach deployment is always being that cloud itself is a commodity, is a commoditized product. But beyond that, the value prop of the cloud, the main differentiation that we bring relative to all other clouds, because not all clouds are equal. From that perspective, we start usually from the relationship, the SAP and Microsoft partnership. And it's a partnership and relationship that goes way beyond number of years. And as you know, we not only play within the productivity and collaboration space, we have solutions that are at the operating system level. You know that SAP's solution are well adopted and run on our platform, specifically Windows. Our databases are also predominantly available and supported in SAP. With that, it's not only a 25 plus year relationship, but you can tell exactly the level of adoption, the level of collaboration, the level of co-engineering, between the two companies, because we have engineers, Microsoft engineers sitting in SAP development labs, and we also have SAP engineers collaboratively, and some of them even sitting within Microsoft development labs. So with that, what we have is specifically a proven platform. Azure Cloud Platform is proven. It's not only proven because it's capable, because it's resilient, because it also offers a plethora of VMs, all of them certified for SAP workloads, small, big, large, extra large. If you go from the sizing notion of t-shirt sizing based, it allows you to deploy solutions in a performant, scalable, to meet your specific BCDR requirements. What you get out of that is the ability to not only position your data within a platform that is as resilient as ours, but also enabling to leveraging that advanced platform for you to gain insights and perform analytics within your data. The other thing that we offer within the framework of solutions is within 365. We have Teams, we have Outlook, we have, Excel. From a collaboration standpoint, from a Power Apps, a Power Platform standpoint, from the ability for you to be able to not only prototype automation for some of the most common tasks that you'd want to apply some level of RPA, would also give you the ability to look at our Power Apps as a way to speed up deployment of applications, eliminating that multiple hubs that you'll find in transactions by, creating specific applications that would, augment and extend SAP solutions, right? So security is top of mind for any implementation. And when we talk about security, we're not only talking about the protocols that we use, but the standard in security is Microsoft. At the center of it is Active Directory integration. So you can consume that as a service within the cloud itself. Um, integration, having all these SAP solutions plus non-SAP solutions talking together is really critical. In that space, we do offer you, the ability to bring in BTP and using the private link to actually not going through public endpoints, but rather traversing through our backbone to access BTP services that run in Azure. Um, Above all, once you have it all top of mind and understanding exactly the whole value proposition that Azure brings, is the ability to unleash innovation, right? So now look at the bottom, from the bottom top, you have security resiliency, a platform that is as proven and is capable to sustain your workloads and your business continuity and disaster recovery requirements, empowering you to gain insights from the data, right? Leveraging and giving you the ability to enhance productivity across all spaces within the organization, meaning that you have different pillars in the organization, you have different groups from finance, from supply chain, from warehouse management, all of those within our platform, you'll be in a position to collaboratively empower them, right? Security, you will be able to bring data from different sources across to the data lake, to the lake house in a secure manner, applying governance as top of mind, coming from the source all the way to the target, right? So with that, I would like to go to the next slide, please. And then, of course, feel free to always chat and put your questions and your comments in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that. What you get out of all that, this is a picture that gives you an understanding of what we offer beyond a cloud-centric infrastructure as a service, from governance, from data and analytics, the ability to visualize your data and go through that transformation approach, whether you're going through ELT based extractions or ETL based approach. We do offer a complete solution at your fingertips that you can actually, um, most of them are serverless based solutions. You don't necessarily have to deploy additional VMs to consume any of these services. It's at your fingertips. You can just log into the portal, activate them, start consuming. All the material pertaining to empowering you to learn and consume it from the get-go, it's available in our documentations in our portal. And from that perspective, if you lack the expertise and the knowledge, we partner with partners such as MSRcosmos to go through a process of assessing, understanding your key requirements from governance, security, from the data extraction approach, understanding the use case, what exactly you're trying to achieve as part of that data extraction. Because we usually tell our customers it's not only the ability to connect or bring the SAP metadata to the lakehouse, but is understanding the purpose, the use case, the business outcome. That is where the value realization really is. And at the center is SAP. Surrounding it is the ability to modernize, extend, and innovate with our solutions. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. You rounded up all of the capabilities, services, and offerings that Azure has for SAP to take benefit of through the slides. And I think from now we'll be able to extend that into the specific area that our customers on the call can take away in terms of demonstrations and the value proposition. So moving on to start with, introduction to MSRcosmos. Siddharth, if you can just get to the next slide. Yeah. So, as Damien said, MSRcosmos is a partner who's been working very closely with Microsoft on SAP value proposition on Azure. We are a 2,000 plus strong global workforce headquartered here in the US. We have over 20 offices across 4 continents. We focus our business on 4 focused tech horizons or workloads, as we would like to call. We have over 300 customers across the different stream of business that we have. We are a INC 5000 fastest growing private companies. We are featured in ISG's provider lens report for SAP on Azure and for public cloud solutions and services. We are a CMMI level 3 certified, ISO certified, and also a WBNC women-led enterprise certified organization. Siddharth, next one. Specifically talking about our Azure competency, we derive our confidence from the fact that we have delivered over 50 SAP on Azure migration. But if we had to look at the total SAP migrations or transformations we have delivered, it goes beyond 50, almost gets closer to 100. We are the fastest growing SAP on Azure migration partner. As mentioned earlier, we are featured in ISG's provider lens report for SAP on Azure capabilities. We have extensive exposure in the manufacturing, logistics, retail, consumer goods, healthcare industry. We specialize in not just in SAP migration, but also app modernization, reimagining the applications that customers build around their SAP, complete data center migration, and data and AI capabilities. We're a Microsoft solutions partner, specialized in SAP on Azure, Linux and open source and database migrations, and application modernization. You can see a list of featured customers. Each one has a story, and for each of these customers, we've matured from just migration into SAP migration into a complete data center migration, or offering data and AI for those customers around their SAP systems that we help them migrate to Azure. Moving on. MSR's key value proposition around SAP modernization basically involves a 3-step approach. It doesn't have to be sequential or in any order. We have seen customers start from any step and get to the next one, or we follow a migrate, automate, and analyze approach. With migrate, we basically are talking about helping customers migrate their SAP systems from on-premise environments or third-party data centers, or even other hyperscale cloud platforms to Azure. We have a number of customers that we have delivered, that talk about those capabilities. We follow a Microsoft recommended SAP migration approach. In a short while, we'll be talking about the migration approach. With migration, we also include modernization, because Azure offers a modern infrastructure, modern security, modern platform to extend SAP applications. So migration and modernization from an application standpoint goes hand in hand. And once customers are on Azure, they have the ability to innovate on their business processes and extend their business process to enable automation, take benefit of Power Platform, Power Automate capabilities. We have few demos that are aligned today in the webinar, and you can experience the power of automation. And with analyze step, we are looking at extending the SAP data, or enabling SAP data for the various data and AI capabilities that Azure offers off the bat. And Balaji will be taking us through some of the use cases and walking us through how a data and AI flow looks like around SAP systems. Moving on. Talking about migration, while migration has been on for a very long time, I think we all have evolved in the way we follow a process around it. And to help us, ensure that we are successful and deliver a risk-free, downtime minimized migration of SAP systems to Azure. Microsoft recommends SAP migration framework, which is based on Azure Cloud Adoption Framework. It basically is a five-step approach, starting from discovery of the SAP infrastructure, the architecture, the application, gathering all of the details around how the applications are deployed, what SAP landscapes and systems we have, and then preparing for how the future state should look like on Azure. You drop the new architecture, identify the optimized infrastructure that you need to provide for SAP. And when we talk about optimized infrastructure, all of the Azure compute sizes that are available for SAP systems are certified by SAP. And I think Azure has the most comprehensive, compute options that are available across any cloud provider today. We also, as part of Prepare, we also build a landing zone which hosts all the connectivity from on-premise data centers or any third-party applications talking to the SAP systems internally. We enable for it. We build security around it, and help subsequent SAP workloads to be migrated. As part of the larger migration. With Migrate, we're focusing specifically around migrating the SAP system, starting from sandbox to development to QA, production, and DR environments. We make each environment secure so that customers feel comfortable about how their systems are going to behave and how the systems talk to each other, and ensure that there is no external actors that cause any disruption to business. Once the applications are migrated, the customers can choose to either leverage their existing partners to operationalize their systems, or MSRcosmos with the managed services capabilities offers SAP Basis and Azure Managed Services for customers, and even functional support for customers where required. And we can engage with the customers, help optimize the landscape, and it's a continuum. We basically review this on a continual basis, understand if we need to right size the infrastructure that is already provided on Azure, and of course, it doesn't end there. It kind of extends from what Damien said about innovating. The true value that SAP customers derive out of Azure is when they're able to innovate on their data, on their business processes, and extend their SAP systems to take benefit of the optimized infrastructure, modern infrastructure, security, and all the capabilities that Azure offers. Moving on. Yeah, so this is a busy slide, but the idea is not to take you through each and every component of what's there in the architecture, but just to give you an idea that this is a complex SAP distributed architecture comprising of all the security elements or components on Azure, all of the SAP environments, starting from sandbox to or a non-production to production. All of this was actually delivered through Azure Landing Zone Accelerator and Deployment Automation Framework. There was no manual involvement to stand up this cloud infrastructure, even have SAP systems deployed. The beauty of SAP migration approach recommended by Microsoft is that it includes, or it has embedded in it, the best practices, recommendations, the automation accelerators that we can use to automate provisioning of cloud infrastructure, as well as deploying SAP systems or installing SAP systems and making configuration. Of course, there is a little bit of manual effort in terms of configurations and validations, but you can achieve a great deal of automation through the accelerators and frameworks that are already available and made available by Azure on the Microsoft portal. Moving on. Yeah, so I wanted to actually call out two use cases that talk to the migration and modernization approach before I hand over to my colleague Balaji. This is a very interesting use case around SAP migration from a third-party data center that a customer Geldwan had hosted. Geldwan is world's leading windows and door manufacturer. I think everybody who has a house here in the US will probably have experience of buying a Geldwan door or a window. Geldwan is today present in 19 countries and with over 100 offices that includes even manufacturing plants across the globe. And Geldwan was actually hosting their SAP systems on a third-party data center, and were not happy about the cost that they were, spending on hosting their infrastructure, and were not happy about the service levels and the service quality that they were receiving from the vendor for any, uh, you know, uh, uh, production related issues or even proactive service issues that the customers were escalating. So they evaluated multiple hyperscale cloud providers and multiple partners to migrate, and finally chose Azure and MSRcosmos to help with the migration. We use automation across the different SAP landscapes and environments that they had, and we were able to deliver uh, 7 SAP landscapes or environments in 15 weeks. I think based on a feedback that I received from the customer, that was by far probably the fastest migration that any SAP customer had experienced, migrating to a hyperscale cloud and considering the complexity of their architecture. And needless to say, the customers saw reduced infrastructure hosting cost up to about 30%, and they were able to offer 99.99 availability for their infrastructure as well. Moving on, I would like to talk about a modernization story. This is an interesting one because TMIL is actually a Tata Group company, and they are in the shipping and logistics business. They were running their SAP much like Geldwan. They were running their SAP systems on on-premise data center, and they wanted to look at transformation to S4 HANA from their SAP ECC systems. They chose MSRcosmos to help them with the transformation and to Azure as well. We migrated their SAP landscapes to Azure along with the transformation. And within 3 months after the migration, they got back to us asking for modernization of their applications that they had built around SAP. Needless to say that SAP only fulfills 60 to 70% of the business processes for any organization, which means there are a lot of gaps, and customers try to fill those gaps either through manual tasks or they build, bespoke applications or custom applications that fulfill them. And these, applications, over a dozen of them that TMIL had running around their SAP, were developed over a decade, and they did not have the vendors who had built it, and they wanted to take benefit of Azure and the modernization capabilities that Azure had to offer in terms of modernizing the applications. So we looked at all of the applications, how they integrate and interact with SAP, and we were able to offer to them a solution that involved Azure platform as a service capabilities, as well as no code, low code capabilities through Azure Logic Apps, and help them fold over a dozen applications and help them improve the efficiency of their operations in tandem with the SAP modernization that they had already experienced. With that, I would like to move on to the next focus that we have around the modernization journey, Siddharth. Yeah, I would like to invite Balaji to take over and talk to us about the data value proposition on Azure. Over to you, Balaji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the briefing. So, hi everybody. This is Balaji. I heads up all the data and AI practices at MSR. So, at this point, I would like to showcase and explain about the capabilities, the additional capabilities, and how we can benefit the customers who are already on SAP and who are already on SAP with Azure. So, what are the surround system, particularly to the data and AI environment, how we can integrate these two worlds together, and how we can get the better benefits out of the cloud services, especially in the data and AI space. So in this kind of a architecture where you can see Microsoft and SAP has been partnered with multiple initiatives, and one of the initiatives is how we can integrate the data, especially from the SAP environments, from whether it is SAP ECC or SAP, BW for HANA or S4 HANA, various types of data that is available, and how we can integrate them into the Azure world. So at this point, recently, since last October, Microsoft has released almost 90 plus connectors to different data integration points, including the SAP. So we have something called as Azure Data Factory. So it is like a data orchestration and data massaging and data ETL and ELT kind of a hybrid integration tool that is been serverless capabilities, which is absolutely no code. When a particular ETL developer or a ETL engineer who is actually working on this, so it's almost like no code kind of a concept of what we have as part of the Azure Data Factory. So the advantage of having Azure Data Factory, like I said earlier, it is having almost 90 plus built-in connectors, which are free of cost. So once we have a license for ADF, and all the connectors without any additional cost will flow into the pipelines. And by using ADF, we can seamlessly connect to SAP environments, whether the SAP is there on premise or on cloud, and whether the cloud can be Azure, it can be on any other clouds other than Azure as well. So ADF can easily integrate with the SAP environment, and it can start getting the data in multiple ways based on the requirements and based on the business use case. So once we have the data that has been extracted by the Azure Data Factory, we need a landing area, like we need a data lake that we usually call it as, especially when we are processing of large volumes of data. So we need a data lake storage that will benefit all the big data analytics or all the advanced analytics that are going to be performed on the data. So, with the invent of all the data requirements and all the data processing requirements, Microsoft also started upgrading its storage mechanisms. Previously, we call it as Azure Blob, and later on it was gone into Data Lake Store Gen 1. And now the current version is Data Lake Store Gen 2, which is having all the latest capabilities that supports the advanced analytics. One of them is hierarchical namespace, which is used for faster retrieval of the data, and also it is having a lot of integrations on the security, especially at the data at rest. How much of security that we can define on the data, and the ACL, the access control list that I want to have on my data, all of them can be configured on top of the data that is sitting on Azure Data Lake Store. So once you have the data on Azure Data Lake Store, the next step comes with the analytics part. So I have my integration done by ADF. I have my data availability done by ADLS, and the next comes with the analytics. So in analytics is again a combination of advanced analytics, whether we want to perform, high or compute any data warehouses, or I want to create a virtual data cubes to process my data, because at the SAP most of the data is available in the um, analytics format, right? So if you want to perform any transactions on the data, if you want to perform any calculations on the data, it's always recommended to bring the data into an environment that is efficiently doing all these calculations. So in Azure Synapse is a combination of multiple tools and techniques, and we can create virtual data warehouses. So once I have created my virtual data warehouse, and then on top of it, I can perform my advanced analytics. So that comes with the Azure ML. So Azure ML again, it is also a combinations of multiple algorithms and multiple techniques. So in especially in the Microsoft, whether we want to go with a regular simple algorithms to much more complex algorithms like deep learning and neural networks, all these algorithms are available as part of the services which are available in the Azure ML. And the best part is, like, whenever we want to give it a try, or whenever we want to try some service, So we need to have some sort of expertise on the tool set, right? But thanks to Azure Machine Learning, in Azure Machine Learning, we have a capabilities of automated machine learning pipelines. So if you define the nature of the data and if you define the requirement, the Azure Machine Learning is having a capability to suggest the best possible algorithm that works for your business use case, and it will be applied on the data, and then the results, whether it is a prediction techniques or whether it is a recommendation techniques based on the use case, the results can again go back to the ADLS or any other data warehouse as part of the architecture. And then the last part is about the visualization. So visualization is about the serving layer, the BI layer. And once the data is available, it has to be represented in a user convenient way, and also it has to be represented in a manner where the users can define their own dashboards from the data out of it, right? So that is where the Power BI comes into the picture, where it is having all the capabilities of having creation of simple reports to complex dashboards, and also it is having the flexibility to embed those reports into your websites or into your mobile phones or into your tablets or smart screens. So it's having a collaborative nature of an effort where the users can share their work and seamlessly it can be accessible by the respective business users or the respective department heads based on the security or based on the role level security, whatever we can define as part of the Power BI roles and access security. So this is how, at the outset, the overall architecture kind of a thing works when it comes to SAP integrations. Siddharth, please go to the next slide. So again, this slide will be into a little deeper when compared to the earlier slide. So in the earlier slide, we have discussed about the overall capabilities. In this slide, we go into a little deeper. Like, if I want to start with leveraging Azure services, if I want to integrate Azure services in on top of my SAP data, what are the things that I have to take care of? Let us assume one of the customer, their infrastructure is available and they are using SAP BW for HANA, and they have their existing infrastructure in some SAP certified virtual machines on Azure. Okay. So ideally, in this case, if I want to integrate with my Azure Data Factory, or if I want to open doors for Azure Analytics on top of the SAP data, there are two things what Microsoft and SAP recommends. As you can see here in the second box, we have something called as self-hosted integration runtime. So it is like a gateway interface. It is like a gateway interface that allows a cloud component to access your on-premise data. So that is about the area of self-hosted integration runtime. So here we need a service, we need a server where we need to configure this integration runtime. And this integration runtime will talk to your actual database, in this case, the BW for HANA. And similarly, I want to access change data capture, delta capture, especially because once we have the data exported, we need to capture deltas as well, right? So for that, Microsoft recently has launched in collaboration with SAP, that is the ODP framework connectors. So here we need a SLT, the server installation to be done on top of the self-hosted integration runtime. By using this SLT interface and by using the ODP framework, the Azure Data Factory will talk to your backend SAP BW HANA systems. It will talk to the CDS views, and it can get the complete data as well as the delta capture. Both are possible in this case.
Looks like Damien has a point. Damien?
I just wanted to add, complement Balaji's point. So as you look, we are leveraging the SAP ODP framework. The SAP ODP framework is built for initially was built for BW data extractions, right? So as you know that SAP delivers business content for BW, the source in this case could be any BW, any um, S/4HANA system or ECC system. On the ECC system, as of release EHP 7, the ODP framework is already built in. In S/4HANA, um, the DMS add-on as part of the SLT framework is also built in and is delivered, within the S/4HANA code line. So from that perspective, if you have your services, if you already have content in the cloud, your self-hosted integration runtime can run in Azure. But because of data proximity and because of latency issues, we also want you to kind of size it properly in a small VM or medium-sized VM where you can deploy it closer to where your data source is. So that gives you the ability to leverage that for the change data capture through the ODP framework, where the deltas are actually in queues, right? And then using ODQ mode to get to a level where you do the monitoring, where you understand exactly what deltas are coming from and the behavior of the tool overall. The only thing on the left-hand side in the picture here is that it still represents the old. The CDC connector is specifically available and is being globally available as of, I think, October of last year. Is something that is available if you'd want to go through a process of getting a demo or go through a process of, starting ideating the ability of extracting data and positioning it into your lakehouse. Is something that we can collaboratively work and get you into a POC, get you into a finding process to start the ideation of the art of the possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. Yeah, go ahead,
Thanks,
Balaji.
Damien. So, in echoing what Damien has mentioned, so once we have the SLT and ODP CDC connector configured as part of the Azure Data Factory, it will start its job by pulling all the delta captures, and seamlessly we can integrate that with Azure Synapse or any other big data analytics frameworks that are available as part of the Azure, and then the data can be seamlessly going into the secure data lake store. Siddha, please go to the next slide. So as part of the demonstration, so we have came up with one of our customer use case. So where we have done integrations with their existing SAP systems. So here the challenge is it's a manufacturing domain, especially coming to the production equipment, and where a lot of malfunctions that are happening in some of the materials, and which eventually causing a lot of downtime to the production flow, and which eventually affects a lot on the production output. So how we can solve this problem is to how we can process the huge volumes of data. Here, the volumes of the data is the gigabits of data that has been generated every day, and we need to process in no time. And then, of course, that we need to have a prediction system. Even actually, the fault arises how we can actually predict the particular thing has going to be having some downtime, or the particular machinery is having some sort of wear and tear. So how effectively we can predict it? So there are two challenges. One is integrating with such a voluminous amount of data from SAP and processing them. And the second thing is how we can implement a predictive learning technique on top of the data and then create a visualization for the customer. So for that, let me show you the output of it. Siddharth, if you could open the Power BI dashboard, please. Yeah. So this is how the end results will look like. So this current dashboard in the slide one, where you can see the current state of the machinery and what are the various types of machineries that are available and their respective current state of the downtime analysis and all. So all this data has been brought from the ADF onto the Azure, and then by using ADF services and AML services. And here where we can see in the slide 3, where you can see on the prediction that has been done by the Azure machine learning. So that if you go to the Dashboard number 3, please. Yeah. So this is a prediction that has been done by the machine learning on top of the data, whatever we have been fed previously, right? So where it can analyze and it can analyze all the voluminous amount of the historical data that has been fed, and it could able to predict so and so machinery, so and so component. There are chances of where you can have more likely the part can get a wear and tear, and this will gives us a lot of information, and also the supplier, the who has actually provided the particular machinery, how cautionary and the preventive measures the particular production unit can take to avoid any subsequent damages in the future. So if you go to the back end math, like what happens, like if you want to get this type of dashboard on my data that is sitting on SAP, what has to be done with respect to Azure Data Factory, and what has to be done with respect to Azure Machine Learning. So let me quickly share my screen so that I will be just briefing about how the things will look like on the ADF front and as well as the AML front. So everything is available in the SaaS model, like I said earlier. Once we have the licenses of ADF, it also comes with all the 90 plus connectors with no code and no installation kind of a setup. And whenever we want to access the on-premise SAP instances, so the earlier part where we have already configured the integration runtime on a bridge server, and that integration runtime is already connected to the SAP instance. So here you can see the pipeline concept. It's all like mostly it's a drag and drop, and if I want to have my own code that has to be part of this pipeline, then it's also possible. If I have a Python code, or if I want to have my .NET code or Java code as part of this pipeline, that is also possible where we can integrate it. So in the supplier quality analysis pipeline, so where I'm bringing all the different attributes from the system. So this is called copy data tool, copy data activity, where you need to mention what is your source. In this case, my source is SAP dataset, and then sync is the target where you want to actually store your data. In this case, the target is ADLS, Azure Data Lake Store. Similarly, I'm bringing all the data points by using various copy activities. So once we have all the data that is available on the ADLS, then you have to do the data pre-processing. So any data that has to be, the transformation phase, especially when it comes to ETL, when you say the transformations. So all the transformations. So in this case, I'm doing on top of the data. So once the data is available, so all of these data, I'm just doing some data massaging, some join operations, and finally the data is going again to the Azure Data Lake Store. So once the data is available on the ADLS, my second set of pipeline come into the picture. That is about the Azure Machine Learning Studio. Like I said earlier, it is also mostly no code and graphical user interface GUI based. And also, if you want to add any additional functionality or any additional code to it, we can also do it. We can also customize it and add our own code to it. So I'm importing the data, which is the output of the ADLS. And then I'm doing all the cleaning, data massaging, all the pre-processing steps that are needed by the machine learning algorithms here. So in this case, we are using classification, that is two-class decision tree forest technique, which is part of the predictive algorithms as part of the AML services. And I'm applying this on top of the data, and I'm training this model. So this is called model training. So once the model has been trained, then we deploy the model. So once in any machine learning, there are two phases. One is train the model. The other one is deploy the model on the real-time data sets. So this is about the training model. So once the model has been trained, then we need to actually do the real-time inference by applying this on the actual data set. So this is called as inference pipeline, or model application pipeline, any way we can call it. So this is the model that has been created in the earlier step, and this is the actual data where I want to do my predictions, and it will apply the transformations, and finally the data is available in the ADLS. And this output of ADLS we can connect to Power BI, the subsequently give for the reporting system. So this is how the seamless integration of SAP data and the seamless connectivity and wide variety of analytical tools starting from ADF to AML and Power BI plays their role in this seamless journey towards the final goal of having better insights and having value added services on top of the SAP data. Thank you so much. Over to you, Prabhu.
Thanks, Balaji. Very insightful demo and the behind the scene you took us through on the Azure Data Factory. Now, coming to the next stage, it's about how you can extend SAP business process and offer automation. And as I said earlier, SAP business processes, the way they're defined and the way they're made available for users within any organization is only delivering 60 to 70% of fulfilling the overall business process, and the rest is today delivered by customers either through manual tasks or custom applications. So that's where we bring in automation, and you would have heard automation by different names. It could be, you could have heard it as intelligent automation or robotic process automation. They're all the same. At MSRcosmos, we look at automation very comprehensively, and it doesn't have to be just with business process. We look at automation all the way from infrastructure automation. Let's say you are transforming to cloud, or you're migrating systems to cloud. You can today leverage automation to provision Azure infrastructure, even do SAP installations. We spoke about it, and the way you do that is through Terraform and Ansible scripting. That you can leverage to automate all of these activities. And there is very little manual steps that you need to perform in order to either validate the systems or test the systems out. And once the systems are migrated, you could use cloud operations automation or SAP system health check automation. I think for those who are constantly tasked with understanding the SAP system health would have realized that you need to go into SAP GUI multiple times, go to different SAP T codes and try to get the SAP system health, ABAP dump, so on and so forth. With automation, you don't really need to have anyone going into the system manually trying to gather data. The automation routines or the bots can actually mimic a human activity, can log in, go to the specific screen, navigate, pull the data, format it nicely in an Excel sheet, and send it as a mail to an SAP manager who needs it on an hourly basis. Just an example of how you can both manage the operations and also deliver system health check information on SAP. And finally, the most value is delivered through business process automation. And that's where every customer today is very keenly looking at identifying gaps in their business processes and how to address those gaps through automation. We at MSR Cosmos has delivered business process automation across a variety of tasks that organizations deliver today. It could be invoice generation, or it could be PO processing, it could be accounts payable or account receivables, reconciliations, etc. You would identify that in each of there are manual tasks and gaps that go outside of SAP, and somebody is manually doing it, recording it somewhere, and then bringing it back into SAP. You can just avoid all of that by the use of automation, use of Power Platform components. Siddharth, if you can move to the next slide. So, as I mentioned earlier, as a automation provider, we've been involved in hundreds of SAP automations involving SAP business processes. Identified that has gaps, and identify them as candidate process, and fill those gaps with automation. Provide new user experiences, through that journey. We have been able to catalog hundreds of automation use cases across industry, be it in human resources or in customer support, finance or accounting, or legal compliance. We have either discovered all of these or delivered a lot of these use cases ourselves. And in the subsequent slides and demo, Ashwin will be walking us through couple of demonstrations of how you can look at a SAP business process automated using Microsoft's Power Platform, Power Automate capabilities. Over to you, Ashwin. Yes, Siddharth, if you can skip. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Okay, as Damien, Prabhu, and Balaji has enlightened us on what Microsoft has to offer for its customers in the SAP space when it comes to not just the cloud, but also the data and the AI capabilities. Okay, so when we look at the enterprises today, so we have a lot of them having decided to migrate their SAP workloads into Azure. And I would like to emphasize why this makes a lot of sense for them, especially from an integration standpoint, right? So once customers are having their SAP workloads on Azure, so they started leveraging integrations with other tools and technologies, inclusive of Azure services, as the Damien mentioned earlier. So we see them using Outlook, Power BI, Teams, where they integrate SAP and non-SAP data. Okay, so today we'll be looking at one of such value-adding integrations, which is based on Microsoft Power Platform with SAP. Okay, so before going to the integration part, so let's talk about what exactly Power Apps mean. So Power Apps is a suite of apps, services, connectors, and the data platform that provides a rapid development environment to build custom apps for all your business needs. With its no-code, low-code approach, Microsoft Power Platform makes it significantly easier for users to generate valuable insights from data and deploy rich applications. Just not the applications, but also to create a powerful workflows, automation, and leverage AI. These capabilities are intuitive and achievable through a simple drag and drop. Okay, meaning the complexity of the development range is even a citizen developer can develop their own apps and deploy them, right? So let us take a look at how SAP users can benefit from one such integrations in their day-to-day activities. So today we'll be looking at two such scenarios. So one would be updating a price of a given product from a product inventory from a Power App. So without even having to access SAP. Okay. And the second one being searching products on Teams platform using a conversational bot. Okay, so we'll be looking at we'll be dealing with the tools, okay, that are in scope for this demo. Okay, Siddharth, next slide, please. Yeah, so the whole idea of automating this process, right? Say for suppose in this instance we have an SAP enterprise procurement model, so wherein we deal, creating POs, okay, creating sales orders, okay, maintaining a product inventory as such. So we'll be having SAP users, many SAP users from the organization accessing the SAP application, okay, and many times in a day, okay. So the navigation and the occurrences of errors, okay, can be brought down by automating certain processes, okay. So as you can see from the screen, like you, so we follow a three-step process. It's a conventional process of accessing SAP systems. So with the help of automation, so it will be just like in 2 clicks. Okay. So we will be developing applications and then deploying into our daily or like a long used app. So in this instance, we can deploy a Power App into a Teams channel, or on a simple Power App, which can actually be available as an application to you. Okay, so over to the next slide. So, so the first piece of the demo is going to be a Microsoft Power App. Okay, so using which we will be updating a price of product, as I said earlier. So we'll be leveraging. So I'll be showing you a SAP interface. So this is a SAP Fiori sitting on top of entity service system hosted by SAP. Okay, and then in return it connects with a custom OData connector, okay, with the Power Apps, and then a Power Apps integrates with it. Okay, so let me quickly share my screen, and show
So
how
while
these things
Ashwin
work
is
in action.
bringing up the demonstration, I just want to bring you to the point that typically a lot of us actually spend time on day-to-day business productivity tools, let's say in office tools or in teams. You're
Mhm.
collaborating with people or you're attending meetings. Let's say you had a way that you could collaborate with your colleagues while you're at Teams. You were able to connect to SAP and pull out a product information or make changes to your product, information. In the conventional way, it means that you have to leave Teams, open SAP screen, log in, go to this specific, T code as SAP calls it, or a specific, the screen, and then make those changes or view that information. Here, you are not leaving the Teams. Realm, and you're still within while you're in Teams, still you're able to bring the data from SAP. And that's what Ashwin is going to demonstrate.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Quick,
Prabhu.
quickly,
So
Ashwin.
let me
Yeah, I think
quickly,
we have less time now. Yeah,
sure. Confirm if you're able to view my screen.
yeah, we can.
Okay. So as I said, so this is SAP Fiori. Okay, this is a new user experience for the SAP systems. Okay, as you can see, it's an enterprise procurement model. Okay, so we'll be dealing with a product inventory that is listed over here. Okay, so as you can see, there are numerous products that are listed in the inventory. Okay, now let us take a look at the Power App. Okay, so this is a Power App developed on Microsoft Power Apps. Okay, so we fetch this data from SAP, and yeah, as you can see, the product info for a given product is listed beside. Okay, now allow me say, let me give you an instance, right? So for suppose you're running a sales campaign and would like to provide some discounts on certain products. Okay, so me being an SAP user, I really don't have to go back to SAP every time I need to change price of a product. Okay, so let me show you how it can be done using this Power Apps, and the results are really instantaneous. Okay, so let me select. So let us take the first product. It's a 10-inch portable DVD player. As you can see on the SAP, it is listed as the $150, right? So let me go ahead. Maybe let me bring the product price down to $100. Okay, and let me refresh the page on SAP. As you can see, the price has changed, right? So I'd like to differentiate like how it can be done in almost in no time, right? So this is just a beginning or a glimpse of the capabilities that Power Apps can actually offer in order to automate things, right? So behind the scenes, so we have Microsoft the Power Automate. So there are certain flows that were built in order to automate this process. Okay, so which in turn connect to SAP systems. Okay, and the changes happen in the backend, and then it gets reflected in the SAP system. Okay, and having said that, moving on to the next piece of our demo. So it's going to be a conversational chatbot. Okay, so let me quickly pull up the screen and show you the chatbot.
So just to extend on that, you can have this Power App screen showing up in Teams. You don't really need to have something separately installed on your desktop for it. If you are in Teams, you can actually surface these apps through Teams itself, and you don't have to go outside looking for it. The beauty of this is the SAP security and role-based access privileges that you have defined in SAP is extended to even Power Apps. So you are
Mhm.
not bypassing any security in order to access this information. So that is something that is critical for any SAP customer, that anybody accessing any data is within the security framework that's already defined within the organization. Okay, go ahead,
Absolutely,
Ashwin, quickly.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think we are 2 minutes
Sure,
over, but let's quickly wrap up. Thank
sure.
you.
Yes, without further ado, let me just show you a preview of how the chatbot. Okay, so this is a SAP product info bot. Okay, which is developed using a Microsoft Power Virtual Agent. Okay, so behind the scenes, we have defined a script. Okay, the trigger phrases and the Power Automate flows, which in turn gets connected with SAP and pulls the information from there and displays here. Okay, so the whole purpose of this bot is to fetch any product details from my SAP systems. So let us get started. So it said hello, and it introduced itself as a virtual agent. Okay, so let me ask to fetch product detail. Okay, and ask me for which product ID I was looking for. So I have this is a product ID which I have by hearted. So there you go. So I asked for product information for this product ID. Okay, and it lists what that product is. Okay, and how much it costs. Okay, so this is a simple flow. Okay, which I've created in no time. Okay, and then published here into my Microsoft Teams. Okay, as you know, Microsoft Teams is a collaborative workspace within Microsoft 365. Okay, it's a central hub for workplace conversation. So the beauty is just not it's just not a standalone app. You can also deploy it in your work channels. Okay, so that can be done too. So meaning like any number of users can actually go ahead and interact with this bot.
Yeah, so just to extend on that, Power Virtual Agent is a conversation as a service offered by Microsoft as part of Power Platform. You could use to build chatbots that could be interacting with your consumers, or it could be interacting with your employees within the organization. It can connect to systems and pull data and provide to you, through the conversation. It understands what you need. It can go fetch that right information, and you use Power Automate to define that flow to connect to any system and bring that information, while Power Virtual Agent basically engages with the consumers or the employees to understand what they want. So that's a beauty about the use case. This is just a glimpse of what is possible, but it's not truly representative of everything that you can build. Of course, with Chat GPT and OpenAI capabilities and the large language models that are coming, you can imagine the possibility of what you can do with such integrations, and the ability of integrating that with SAP and your business data. So with that demonstration, we come to the end of our session. We would like to wrap up by quickly, summarizing the key takeaways. We saw how Azure offers the most comprehensive capabilities for SAP customers. SAP Modernization on Azure involves extending SAP applications to benefit from the modern infrastructure, security features, user experiences, data platform, and insights offered on Azure, all under a single roof, for customers in close proximity for SAP systems. SAP migration approach for Azure basically offers a pathway for customers to benefit from the best practices, recommendations, and accelerators to deliver secure, optimized SAP migrations. Automation around SAP business process helps customers innovate on their SAP systems and business processes. And of course, Azure Data and AI for SAP extends new data-related capabilities using Data Factory, Databricks, Synapse Analytics, ML, and Power BI capabilities on Azure. While this was about the comprehensiveness and the capabilities offered on Azure for SAP systems, MSRcosmos is uniquely positioned to deliver SAP modernization goals on Azure. Please reach out to your sales folks interacting with you from MSRcosmos for any questions you might have. The presentation will be curated and made available to you shortly, and you can enjoy an offline experience or share it with your friends. With that, I would like to thank you for your time on the session today. I hope it was useful. Please share with us feedback on the session, and thanks again, and have a great rest of the day, all of you.